Hello, everybody in comic book land. This is Rick Morgan, the self-proclaimed comic book scientist, and I'm here with Daniel, Mr. Sticky Goose, Dr. Sticky Goose. And I welcome him to the show. He doesn't do a lot of cleaning and pressing. He does have a t-shirt press, but we want to talk about other stuff besides cleaning and pressing for once, and just general comic bookiness. And I wanted to start, but the elephant in the room thing is, why Sticky Goose?
Well, thanks for having me on, Rick. Yeah. Sticky Goose is I don't know if you're familiar with like Mavis Beacon typing school or other software. Yeah, well, there's this game called Sticky Bear Typing, and you had to type fast enough to prevent the bear from falling into this sticky honey. Well, that was like my gamer tag for years. And then I lost the password. So I had to think of another sticky animal. And I was like, Sticky Goose, Silly Goose. And that was how that came about.
Just random stuff, nothing to do with comic books at all.
Not at all. That was my gamer tag on Xbox Live.
Very good. So there we go. We have an answer to the question. We now know why Sticky Goose. I love it. It's personal and appropriate, and I love it. I wanted to share with you an email really quick that someone wrote me this morning, and he's one of my followers. And when he noticed that you were coming on the show, he follows you as well. And by the way, I love your show. I love your mannerisms. I love your sardonic attitude, and your irreferential behavior suits me just fine. I love it. I like it. So anyway, his name's Jay Hayes, and he says, "Hi Rick, I saw your promotion for the live stream with Mr. Sticky Goose," in quotes. He goes, "I'm glad you're to make contact with him. I'm sure you saw his video," and I think he means the one where you had reviewed my slab opening video. And he says he looked panic stricken when he saw how easily you opened the slab with heat application. He said, "It was like watching someone see a paternity test not going their way," he said. So you must have had I don't remember, but you must have had a brilliant facial expression, because it hit home with a lot of people. And can you tell me a little bit about that? Because he's asked me, when you saw that video of mine, what were your feelings and impressions? And what was the thoughts behind the facial expressions that gave it away?
Yeah, so a few people told me, they directed me towards your video, and you, like myself, we just kind of found each other like a week and a half ago or so. And I saw your video, and I loved how you were explaining things and just very methodical about how you were doing what you were doing. And then once you just gently applied that heat and separated the pin, I was like, oh, this is a nightmare. And because I've tried to crack some slabs before, and they've all just shattered because I wasn't using what you were doing. And my reaction was, oh my God, this is the end. This is, if somebody can do this as easy as you were doing it, and it seemed like you had only done this once, or maybe that was your first time trying. And it was like, it was like a layup. And then I thought, if somebody had perfected this, had done this for years and years, they could never crack a slab potentially.
Yeah. It hits you in the gut. It hit me in the gut. But I will tell you a little secret that 21, almost 2.5 years ago, in the summer, I was doing some experiments, and I already knew this was possible, because I had put some cases. I was doing ultraviolet light. I've been making these thin ultraviolet absorbent slabs that fit right on the front. You can press them into a CGC slab to stop UV light. So I was coating parts of these and putting them on the roof of this building and leaving them out exposed over the summer. And I was going to come back and check for, the fading of the colors. So I climb up on the roof and check, and climb up on the roof and check. One time I went up, and all the slabs popped open. They had separated.
Oh my God.
On their own. And I thought, what? So I'm looking for evidence. I'm looking for what happened. And they had just, it wasn't 100%. I was 4, and I think there were 2 or 3 of the pins that were still connected, but they just let go, and I could just open. Now the ultrasonic welded part was still ultrasonically welded. I now know that you can take a laser. I have a laser. You can just score it lightly, and then that can be separated. And if you buy an ultrasonic welder for $300, you can and it's the same size and shape. You just tap it, and it just goes back. But I looked, and I thought, oh man, these can be separated. I said, if they could be resealed, then that's not great. Well, I tried a bunch of solvents. I was trying different solvents to do solvent welding. If you can get a little drop in the hole where the pin drops, it seals right back up. You can also use comic book press to press it back in. Like you really has a t-shirt press, and it makes it flat and you can't tell. I knew this almost 3 years ago. I didn't say anything because like, look, I know you know this, but not everybody else in the audience knows. But to do this business, to put your face on the screen, you have to have thick skin. Like I'm pretty sure you have experienced that. And I didn't want to say anything about it at the time. But coming into this now with separating the case, I knew I could separate. I knew there was a way to do it. I suspected it was with the heat gun. I didn't know for a fact. I mean, I didn't think the answer was sitting on the roof for 3 months, right? So, and then I knew I could probably reseal. I suspected I could reseal it. So I was 70% sure I was going to succeed before I started. But now I thought it's the time to let the cat out of the bag, because like I said in a previous video I had, the right number of people that know how to do this is 0. The second best number is everybody, I said. And why is that? Why can't I just show what to look for instead of showing people how to do it? Is because I think the idea is that if a certain bad actors know how to do this, then the best thing for me to do is not to gatekeep that information about how to do it. I can't give myself the importance to be the gatekeeper and just dole out small bits and say, you only look for these things, and if you're magically good enough, I might show you how to do this. No, I let you do it, and then you look and you see what happens, and now you have an example, and you can now be a FBI officer and you can look for your own stuff. And then I let it. And of course, some people liked it, some people didn't, depending on how much money you're making off of slabs, how much anger you have towards me. I knew that was coming, but I thought I was going to get like 1,000 or 1,200 views. I was overwhelmed. And so I already kind of knew.
Yeah, I knew you were, as I was watching that video, I was like, he's going to get smoke from potentially multiple directions. One, I thought you were going to get heat from CGC specifically. Like I thought you were going to get some sort of cease and assist or cease and desist letter, like do not stop, do not do what you're doing. Or you were going to get like the hardcore slab guys, like the big dealers saying, stop. I knew you were going to get some heat for that. And that doesn't surprise me. But you touched on like a few really good points there that I wanted to ask you about. And I now know that you were kind of preparing for that type of heat.
Yeah, I knew it was coming, but I'm sort of like you. I'm a bit irreverent, and I have my own sense of right and wrong that I feel strongly about it. And I like a speak truth to power kind of person, right? Like I'm a kind of a guy who likes to take the power from the higher up guys and bring it down to the people. And you probably sense it. That's my sort of grassroots.
And another thing about the pressing community, because that's an entirely different, that community I don't have a lot of crossover, I think, with my audience specifically. That audience it very much feels like a closed system in that you guys are all sharing that information with each other. The pressing community doesn't want to let their secrets out because then the cat's out of the bag and, your business model is in danger or, people are making their living doing this. And I always sense that I didn't like that. I didn't like that the pressers kept this information that should be disseminated and people decide on their own whether they want to try it or not. And I'm glad you brought that up because I have a lot of respect for you showing what you're doing and letting the person decide, hey, you want to do this, or send them to me.
Yeah. And I actually don't clean and press.
Oh,
I actually don't. And if I do it, I only do it for free.
Oh, wow.
I never charge people money. So that's the thing. I stopped doing it for money a long time ago. And if I do it for free. That's it. I take them occasionally and I don't take any money. Reason is because it sucks doing this as a job. I love doing it as a hobby and it kind of gets my brain going and I'm in a Zen spot. As soon as it becomes a job, it's not even any fun anymore. I don't like it. So I decided some years ago that my intention would be to show others how to do it. And I made a lot of specialized tools for myself and some chemicals. And then people started asking me for these tools and chemicals. So what I do is I have a store out of a shop. You've seen it. And I laser cut and 3D print and injection mold and make my own things. And I sell them to other people and I show them how to do it. And I say, look, instead of asking me to do it for you, because I'm not magic, I don't know anything special.
Right.
I've just done it many tens of thousands of times. That's all the special I have. You do this. You be your own advocate.
Experience is a big factor.
Yeah, I'm starting to realize that because I've started to make videos and try to like show people how to do it, and they just are not getting it right. So I'm like, what is missing? Like, what am I not communicating?
Well, you're smarter than the average bear, dude. So
yeah, maybe that's the thing. Yeah, so I'm like missing that. I'm like, but they're getting some of it, right? Some people get more, some people get less. But the idea is power to the individual. You learn how to do this yourself. Don't send it to me and let me make the money, right? You do. Yeah. Why would you send it to me? And then I send it back to you, and then you send it to CGC. CGC sends it back to you. You send it to the customer. Like, why are we spending all this money in all these supporting industries? Just clean your own damn book and send it in, or slab it yourself. Do a good job of grading. Be trustworthy, and then you don't have to slab it. People will believe you and trust you. That's what I think the next replacement for the grading industry might be. Either AI learning, either AI imagery, or a computer looks at this and you ask the computer, how many pixels are different than a stock pixel? Go, and it just tells you. Or a trustworthy individual puts the book in a case itself, and that person says, and that if that person's not trustworthy, we have a community board that says that person graded bad or this person graded good. The people who do it most honestly are going to float to the top, and then that's it. You clean and press and sell directly. Don't even go through eBay. Just have it on your own website, and then we eliminate all the other people who are siphoning money out of the business from the collectors and the traders. That's just me. My political background is coming out, like the things I appreciate, but I want to distribute.
You definitely have a utopian landscape idea there. In my mindset, nobody can be trusted. There has to be objectivity. There has to be a third party. The person that is slabbing is not the person of whether this is keeping this book or keeping it in the hobby, like keeping it in circulation. I think a third party is a must, and it sucks. That's the argument against like communism versus like capitalism, where I mean, ideally communism would be ideal. I mean, but it just doesn't work. Like,
make as you're able, take as you can.
Yeah, people have to be motivated.
I think the third party was impossible before social media. I think you're exactly right. I think it could never have happened. When I was a kid, I was constantly feeling the pressure of adults when I was trying to trade them what were semi-valuable comics, couple $100 here, couple $100 there. They were always like, I felt like they were taking advantage of me and telling me, oh, this is how much this book is worth, kid. You didn't see this spot right here. Like there was a lot of pressure, and it was an individual guy against this shop owner, and you just felt like you were at their mercy. Now I think that if there were like comic book instead of Facebook, right? A list of people who are graders. And this guy said, this guy gave me a fair deal. I agreed with it, or he didn't, and I disagreed with it. And then you show the book and that person got a rating, you could naturally sort of trend toward, I mean, I might be dreaming stuff.
Do you go to many Comic-Cons?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Okay.
I go to the one in Seattle every year now. And if I'm traveling and there's one, and if I go to one, and if I'm traveling in another country and there's one, I'll go there. Like I'm going to spend almost all of next month in Italy and Germany. And I'm sure there'll be one there. I went to one in Scotland last year. I just went to a comic book store in Cape Town, South Africa recently. I go to comic book stores and conventions all over the world.
Well, I mean, I've been pretty vocal on my channel about talking about comic book dealers specifically. And man, I have had some very, very poor experiences.
You're going to get some threats eventually if you keep doing that. Yeah.
I've been banned. I've been banned from a Comic-Con. And I don't care. Like, I will, if I have had bad experiences, talk about people like grading my book. I've had people grading my CGC slabs that I've come to trade or sell at shows. And I'm like, I can't deal with this. Like, that's why I just completely stopped doing that. But I don't think this idea of like the comic book community or this like trust, that is out the window. There's too much money in this hobby now.
Yeah. I might be dreaming. Plus my memory's too long, right? I have my memories of today are mixed with my memories of a long time ago when the kindly old guy was running the comic book store and was willing to cut a kid a break once in a while and stuff. And I'm not sure that happens anymore.
No, these guys, these comic shop owners, they're desperate for money. And I've had too many situations where, they buy books for nothing. They'll take advantage of the sweet little old lady that comes in there, tell her that her stuff's nothing, and then flip them to a guy like me who I value them. I want them. I want to collect them, and I pay top dollar. And that's just, I've had a lot of people say, oh, you don't understand business. Well, I'm like, I understand that, is business, but at the same time, do you just have to, just get every single penny out of somebody?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a venal atmosphere. You have to think comic book LCS shop owners, it used to be a viable business, right? I think in the 80s and 90s, you could have a comic book store and you could be driving a nice car and you could make some money. I think now it might be a little different because you have your competitors are people who don't have to pay a storefront. They don't have to rent it every month. They don't have to pay employees every month. They're not looking to sell books and make a quarter, 50 cents off of them every book every Wednesday when the new books come out, right? They are supplementing that income. They have a lot more outgoing money. And all these people, everybody who can make a Whatnot channel or an Instagram claim sale or run them out of their garage is a competitor suddenly and can undercut them on the prices severely. So it's created a sort of a, I don't want to say vicious, but I'll say a antagonistic relationship between the money coming in and the money going out people, I think.
Yeah, when you go into a comic shop, it feels overpriced. It feels predatory in a lot of ways. And I wish it didn't feel like that because I would want to patronize the local comic shop. I want to patronize the brick and mortar over the online guy because I like going to the comic book shops. It's just, so my justification for paying more at this comic shop is because you're a brick and mortar and you're local. It's very hard pill to swallow, especially if you're collecting on a budget or, you're buying a very expensive item.
Yeah. I get that. And I see, well, it used to be, and I'm going to put on my old man hat yet again, is that we used to go there and sort of socialize. We used to show up, there'd be a pile of bikes out front of a comic book store. We'd go in there and we would talk to each other and argue about who's stronger, the Shazam or Superman. And we'd have these talks. And then the guy at the counter would, in the back, he would set up a place for us to sit down and read our comic books. We would order like a bunch of burritos from there's a burrito shack around. We have great knee highs and we'd be down there reading the books. And then, it was more of a community place and not just to pay more stuff. So we were paying for more than just the fact that we're going to a physical brick and mortar space. It was a spot where you could find kids circling any comic book store when I was younger. And I think that's different now. I mostly see adults.
I've been to a few stores that I feel that vibe and that energy of, it's a meeting place. It's a bar for nerds in a way where we come, we talk shop. So I definitely have felt that. And I want that in my area more than anything. That the one time I did feel it was in Virginia Beach. And I felt it in one of those shops and guys were coming in talking about the new books. The shop owner was explaining CGC slabs. They were explaining grading. I was like, oh my God, this is awesome. It wasn't like the troll behind the counter, just like lurking to like, what do you want? And I don't want to buy a comic book. It's just, that gets old quick.
Yeah. I guess we're all going to have different experiences. That leads me to my next question I have for you is how long have you been doing this? How long have you been collecting and selling comic books?
So I've been collecting single issue comic books for around 3.5 years.
How old are you now?
I'm 33.
Okay. So since you're about 29.
Yeah. So this is not a hobby that's a childhood thing for me. So superheroes for me, early on, I got my first taste of it with this game called Hero Clicks.
Yeah, I know it. Yeah,
okay.
There's a little base and you turn it and they have hit points and stuff on it.
Yeah, that was my first taste. And then I had Batman animated series, X-Men animated series. That was my first superhero stuff. And then I was in school for a long time. And I didn't have any money. So comic book collecting was not feasible, but I was reading trades. I was reading, I had like Comixology on like my
Yeah.
iPhone. So I was reading books. Like I was reading Saga. I was reading The Dark Knight Returns, Watchmen, the Infinity War or Infinity Gauntlet stuff.
Yeah.
So it was like I was reading that stuff, but I wasn't collecting single issues because I just didn't have any money. And then once I started working, I started getting the omnibus. And then I started realizing I was like collecting these single issues. This is really cool. And I had kind of a breakthrough moment when my dad kept his entire comic book collection from the 60s. And we went into his storage unit in 2019 and we got into all this stuff. And he had first Poison Ivy, first Batgirl, the big DC keys from that mid to late 60s Silver Age era. He had all those books, and he and I bonded a lot over that. And I was in.
So now you have an emotional attachment. I think that on top of the money, that's one emotion. And I think other people have emotional, like I hear a lot of father-son stories.
Yeah, it's something that because when I went off to school and bonding with your father as a man as opposed to bonding with your father as a child is very different. And it was just a really special day because these were obviously things that he had treasured, things that he had enjoyed. He was going back through the story, like he remembered stories. He remembered like buying this for 12 cents. And it was like, I want to be a part of this. Not just reading the stories. I want to collect the books too.
Well, how old's your dad now?
He's 67.
So yeah, so he's like 15 years older than me. So he grew up in a very good time. So it's probably very emotional for him too. Right? Where would you say, given like you have that experience and you've now obviously you've seized this more than many people ever would, right? Like you've gotten into this at a level that is super high. Like you're famous in comic book stuff, right? I always tell people I'm as famous as the mayor of Junction City, Oregon, which has about 8,000 people in it, right? So that's where I grew up. So where is this going to be, in your opinion, in say 10 or 15 years? How will comic book collecting survive? And if it does, what kind of changes will we see?
New comics, specifically the ones that come out weekly, suck for the most part. The independent stories are very good, but the Batman, Superman, the heroes stuff, in my opinion, is not very good. The major issues that I see going forward are brick and mortars shuttering up because people don't want to buy the new books anymore. There's the money thing is the problem. For $4, you don't get what you pay for many times. So the lifeblood, I think, of comic book single issue collecting is the key issues and the runs and the old books and the origins of these characters, these stories that are timeless. Alan Moore's writing, Frank Miller's writing, these iconic stories. This is what comics is and why it's important and why it's still a thing today. This new wave, I'm not saying it's all bad, but most of it's bad. So what this looks like in 10, 15 years, I don't know. I don't, with the price surge, I don't think we see that again. I don't know I don't know whether your kids' generation will give a crap about collecting physical things. And that's one of my biggest concerns is what does the next generation prioritize? And it seems to me they only care about digital things.
Yeah, I think comic books would have to be very short to capture the attention span of kids in the future, right? And it is different. Like we used to trade these things as if they were valuable commodities. We didn't have a lot of entertainment options, but now you have so many entertainment options, so many things competing for young people and older people for our attention. $4 does seem ridiculous. The printing is not great. The stories are, I don't know, every once in a while you catch one that's pretty good, but they're still making movies off of comic books from the 60s through the 80s, if that tells you anything. Like, nobody's making movies off stories that happened recently.
Well,
Spider-Man is obviously my
Thor
guy.
God and Thunder was.
Yeah, that's true. That's true, actually. Yeah, but a lot of the Spider-Man stories are like they're the best. But I think they stopped making Spider-Man stories right before Venom came out, like 291, where Kraven's Last Hunt, that J.M. DeMatteis one. It's like when Peter had grown up, he got married, he'd suddenly proven himself to be worthy of the Spider-Man title, and then it sort of closed that loop. It didn't deserve, I don't think, another 30 years of stories. Although there have been some great stories in there, it all feels a little weird after that. And if you think of the Walt Simonson Thor from the 80s, that was, he grew a beard. He's like, there's Sif, and all
Beta
this
Ray Bill.
war came in. And so, yeah, Beta Ray Bill, all that developed and became really good and explored this. But now they've been doing some weird stuff, and with Asgard, and he's Immortal Thor. It just feels, I don't know, forced and just weird and not good. Maybe because I'm an old fart. Maybe that's why. But it just isn't. The stories aren't quite the same. I feel you. But the world is making good stories. Writers are writing good stuff. They may be not just making it into comic books. And I think perhaps maybe I'm reading the wrong type of comic books, because maybe the lore is too long, right? Maybe there's too much reference for me to not contaminate my thought of what's happening now, right? But I think that the pandemic and CGC and encasing cap injected a lot of people into this business, into this hobby that would not have been here. There are now the venal people who want to make money off it and don't give a crap about comic books. And there's also the comic book companies who are going to make variants, and they're going to throw some titties or some girls in bikinis on it, and they'll make 8 more covers, and then they'll sell the same book 8 times, right? Or they'll like do anything to make anything a key, or they'll call it a number 1 6 or 7 times. Now that seems awful, but it's also injecting a lot of money and much needed capital in a world. Now imagine we're thinking of comic books, right? In a world where there are no printing businesses left. Like, there's a huge Seattle Post-Intelligencer building that's completely vacant in my city. There are so many other printing places that are completely vaporized. I say, God bless them for sticking in as long as they have. I don't know much longer they got to go. At $4 a piece, especially when you can read any comic. We used to have to buy these things. We used to buy these books because we couldn't read it anywhere else. There's no place else to get it.
Right.
But now I can read this for $1 on your Comixology app. Is that the same experience? No way. It's like dating a real girl versus going out with a hologram or something, right? It's a whole different experience that way. But if you just want to read it and you don't have any memory of that experience, you're not smelling the Hubba Bubba gum inside of it, then maybe that's good enough.
Yeah, somebody put a comment here. I was looking at this, and he says he likes comics but isn't a collector.
Is that for you?
Yes. This is a rampant gatekeeping mentality that specifically people that have been in this hobby for a long time, that mentality is cancer. And that's why this hobby is so hard to get into, and why long-term, and you ask me 10, 15 years down the road, what happens? It's because you touched on something. Is the lore too hard? Is it too far back for new comic readers to grasp? I don't think so. I think it's this mentality of tribalism, where you like comics, but you're not a collector. You read comics, but you don't respect them. You're just wanting to flip or sell, and that kind of stuff pisses me off, because I don't gatekeep anybody. I don't gatekeep anybody with my stuff. I call bullshit out when I see it, specifically going to these dealers, going to these shows, bullshit like that. But I don't do that. I don't do that right there, which pisses me off and makes me not want to be part of the community, because there is no freaking community. When I'm down here in my room, I read my books. I don't give a shit about the gatekeepers. I don't give a shit about what my slabs are worth or whatever. I get to enjoy my stuff, and I get to, I'm escaping. And that's my 2 cents.
No, I hear it because I preach it, brother, because I want to hear more about this because my next question was going to be to you about this. Let me stop the Jim at Collecting Chaos here. He says there's nothing like the memory, and this is going to feed into this gatekeeping and this like tears. The memory of sitting on the edge of a curb in front of a 7-Eleven, drinking a Slurpee and reading the latest issue of your favorite comic. Yeah, I have that memory with my feet in the street, like of cars about a foot from my legs, wadded up X-Men in my back pocket, in a grape knee high, and my bike with the banana seat laying over there. And that's where some of this gatekeeping comes from, is this. And I'm going to describe this as an emotional attachment versus a financial attachment versus just liking the hobby, right?
Yes.
Now, is there a right way? And I'm going to say no. I'm going to say if you are getting more people in to this hobby, God bless you, everyone. I say, right? If you
make as many titty books as it takes.
What's that?
Make as many titty books as it takes.
Throw them out there, right? Roll them in, folks. Make them 3D, right? It's I say that if you can bring people in, you can keep the print and presses rolling, you can keep the stores open, you can keep us talking and having. Look, if I could go back to 1986 or 85 and go talk to 14-year-old Rick Morgan, who's in a Red Lion banquet hall at a comic book store. And we're at the time, it was not even like it's like shadow cool to be in the comic books. Like people, oh God. So people, we'll talk about this in a second. So people get you, right?
This guy's like the biggest, one of the biggest trolls ever.
Oh my God. Okay, we'll talk about that in a second. And so I could go to the future and say, look, comic books are going to be cool. Like back at the time when I could get an AF-15 for $300. And I could say, I could go to a comic book convention. There's going to be 100,000 people there. There's going to be girls dressed up like Poison Ivy all over the place. I would not have believed it, right? I'm saying bring these people in. So tell me more about Eggplant Comics. Let's hear about it, from you and about him.
There's guys, and you touched on this. We are showing our faces. We are showing our bald ass heads on
We're not
YouTube.
Beautiful people, right?
Exactly. And it's easy to talk shit. It's easy to gatekeep behind a keyboard, but it's a totally different thing to sit in front of this stupid camera with these stupid lights and talk and have an actual conversation. And you know what? Us too. We are the kind of people that actually care about this hobby. We want to have these rational discussions. And there's just so many people. This tribalism just kicks off so easily. And this is what I think a big thing happened with the CGC stuff that's going on. There is an in group and an out group where people just want to see CGC burn. They want to see slabs go the way of the dodo bird. And they still want to see slabs go the way of the dodo bird. And it's like, dude, just people want slabs. People want to collect graded comics. They want to have a service to send the books down. And people just want to make things as difficult as possible, it seems.
He says here, I don't want to start a fight between you two, but I want it because this addresses my next question, which is both the tribalism and the layers of comic books. I'm going to ask you to describe more of what this problem is. And then you have a little bit about people who want certain things to fail. I'd also like you to touch on people who are just getting attention, right? A little bit. I'd like to do that. But I want to talk about this with because Eggplant says here in a second, you also bash lots of good YouTubers like
what's a good YouTuber?
That is exactly what I was going to ask.
What's a bad YouTuber, Eggplant?
What makes a good versus a bad YouTuber? Right. Well, I guess he would have to answer that. And we can put his comic up here because there's a lot of sensationalism channels that talk a lot about buying and selling comics and the prices. You will not hear that from me, but it's just not my focus, right? I have a different focus, which is cleaning and pressing. I'm not saying it's bad because Comic Tom is a good friend of mine. I don't know Bry swag people at all, but you could see that there are people who are maybe just trying to talk about the prices of books and things, right? And so he says good content.
Ooh, that's a good definition.
And he says uplifting positive.
We all need to pat each other on the back and jerk each other off. That's what we need.
Oh man. So And this guy says, Rick is a good YouTuber. Thank you.
I would agree with that.
I thank you. I don't know if I deserve it, but because I am super boring. I have so many people tell me I'm monotone and my videos are 8 times as long as they need to be. I'm not an exciting person, but I appreciate the kind words. I really do. And so he goes, Sticky Goose filmed himself in stores bashing store owners. Oh, tell us about that. Is that something that you've done?
So some of my biggest videos are of me going, and I have a strap-on camera that I walk into stores and I kind of film what it is to be in the store. People want that first person perspective. I know I do. I look for those type of videos where those hunt and haul type videos. And I've had some comments to say about some of these places that I've gone in. And so they're some of my most popular videos because they're not boring. They are, I'm calling it like I see it. And whether you agree with me or not, it doesn't matter. I want to make something entertaining.
We're also signing up for your opinion if we watch it, right?
Exactly.
Not our own opinion. I'm signing into here and I say, I want to see Sticky Goose's opinion on this comic book store and see what happens. Exactly. And maybe if there's some kind of a fight, you get some popcorn and you enjoy yourself. Now, you've also said that you've had some struggles and been, I don't know, did you say that you've been banned from a store or something recently? Is that something too? Is that related to this?
I was kicked out of 2 comic book shops in 1 day, in 1 hour. And then I was banned, shadow banned from a Comic-Con, Big Lick Comic-Con in Roanoke, Virginia.
And you live in Virginia, right?
I'm in West Virginia.
West Virginia.
Yeah. There's a lot of people don't know this. There's 2 states. There's West Virginia and then there's Virginia. Like Virginia there's not like just a western part of Virginia. Like we seceded from the Union in 1865. I don't know. There's like a lot of people that don't even know that, which blows my mind. It's like there's like 50 states, but yeah. So like I kind of have a chip on my shoulder about that. I don't know if you can tell, but
You're a little defensive. Yeah.
Yeah. It's one of those things that's like people from West Virginia are very there's very much tribalism of our state where it's like, we're West Virginians, by God. But anyway, yeah. So I went into those shops. I said my opinions, and I made one of my most popular videos on my channel. And I want to thank everybody that's watched it that's in here right now. But yeah.
Okay, that's fair. So what is a little bit about the tribal? We got the difference in the collectors. And I think this is a beautiful segue into differences in YouTubers. What are the differences? What are some of the differences you see in YouTubers and maybe even Instagram channels?
I think a lot of people have financial interests. They have reasons for doing and saying the things that they say. So like certain YouTubers will promote certain books because they have a hidden agenda. Certain YouTubers will do whatever it is. They won't come out against certain things or, defend certain things or come out against certain things because it affects their interests, their financial interests. I am not bought or sold by anyone. I don't care. And I think you were in that same vein where there is nothing motivating you other than making good content that is objectively you. And that's what I want my channel to be. So many of these other channels I see, it doesn't feel like that. And we don't need this type of manipulation in a hobby that's already sort of on life support. And one of the biggest issues that I've had is the mystery box. Injecting gambling into our hobby. I don't know what your opinion is on that, but I am totally against that.
Well, I don't do it. I understand why people do it. And I think it's a great way for some sellers to get rid of comic books that they don't want and break even while moving a bunch of books at the same time. Is it for me? No. Partially because I have more comic books than I know where to put right now. but also I'm not in it for the money. I'm not the guy buying the pull tabs at the bar. I'm not the guy buying the scratch tickets at the
Right.
gas station. So I don't get that excitement from it. But if I were the type of person who, let's say I can't afford a, I don't know, Tales of Suspense 39, although that may be too extreme of an example, right? But
Not
there's a
really.
chance, right? There's a chance I could get one by this method, and I didn't get it. I lost. But instead,
Supposedly.
yeah, I got some books that were okay. I might try it again. I'm afraid what's going to happen. There's the same thing as I was afraid with the CGC thing and the opening the slabs. People say, you hate CGC and slabs. You want us all to lose money. No, I don't. I just want it to be pure and what it's supposed to be. I'm
Yes.
afraid we're going to find out one day, and my heart sinks and stops about it. I think about this, that those books were either never in those boxes or they went to a guy that they'd pre-planned to send it to in the first place or something. That's my big fear. Now,
Right.
that I'm not trying to be cynical, but it's a fear I have, because if that's found out even once, everything will go away. It will all crash. I like I always say, I welcome any way somebody can creatively make money and sustain this hobby. And if you get a book that you didn't really want, like I got some books today, like I happened to get a Iron Man 87. Who cares about this book? Nobody. Happened to be a Mark Jeweler variant. I'm happy to read it. I wouldn't read this book, except there's a Mark Jeweler variant. I read it. It's actually a fun story. If somebody accidentally gets a story they like to read and it keeps them entertained, then I'm happy for them.
It's just the money is so crazy with these mystery boxes, man.
It is.
And then it's the false promise of artificial scarcity, artificial rarity. There is a certain YouTube channel. People are wanting me to say names. I'm not going to do that, but you can probably put two and two together here. He had an exclusive retailer variant where the price got artificially inflated because he destroyed books. And one of the prizes in this mystery box allowed you to get this book, and that was your $250 value. And I see this as predatory. I see this as exploitation. It's almost like a tax on the poor in a way, where gambling is. It's that nugget of like, oh man, this is my shot of getting an AF-15. It's my only shot. I'll never be able to afford one. But if I put this $250 in, this is my golden ticket. And in that type of predation, it leaves with bad feelings. And then you end up with a collection that you don't like. I know you did a positive thing where, taking a look at the Iron Man book, but that is one way of looking at it. But then imagine if you're just a mystery box collector and your whole collection is like built from mystery boxes.
Yeah.
I mean,
you
can't
got a collection
be
that's
happy
worth nothing, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing is I've had some experiences too. And I think you and I can have a talk later about who this person is and after this. And it was, I've found that the personality of a person online is very different in real life than it is. Like it's not nearly as happy and gracious, and very much about money in a way that I found really
But he's
disturbing.
such a nice guy.
Yeah, seems super nice on there, right? And I found that when there's money talk on the table, and this person wants money, he gets basically vicious. And
I want to be a nice guy like some of these other channels that Eggplant likes with the good content.
There you go. Well, snarkiness noted. And Eggplant says to you, your pal, he says he's curious what he thinks of my blue light box. I'm not sure you know about my blue light box.
No, sir.
It's called an Immaculate. It's not blue. It's purple, but it's 435. It's a. I don't call it a blue light box. It's other people just started calling it this. I don't know why, but it's a box that you go later and look at my channel. You'll see it. It's a box that has a mirror on all sides, and it has two LED arrays of lights at 435 nanometers, and it photo bleaches books to become whiter than they would have been. It artificially makes them look white. It's altering the appearance of the book photochemically.
That's incredible.
You'll be shocked if you see what it does, I think. But it's been around. It's not nothing I invented. It's been happening since the 40s with paper and money and books. But it's just an application. I make a box that I sell because people ask me to make it because I made one for myself. Take a look later.
Okay.
It's shocking. You'll be shocked. I think what he's asking specifically, because you've mentioned before, he's taking this is against me, not you. He's trying to get
Oh,
me to tell you that
don't go
I'm bad.
after Rick. He's a nice guy.
It's like he's trying to get.
I'm the douche.
I think that's what's happening, is that he's trying to get you. And it, actually, when someone else said it's ultraviolet, it isn't, because it's not fewer than 405 nanometers. So it's not ultraviolet. But so what it is I am making money from making a device that alters the appearance of a comic book to be whiter than it would have been if it had yellowed. Therefore, when you sell it, it's now looks, I guess, artificially newer than it was before. And he says he purchased it from me. So maybe he's not, maybe he is, and maybe he's supporting me. Maybe I'm reading some negative stuff in here that I don't see. But he says that, and he said he loves it. So maybe I'm completely reading this as wrong. Maybe the cynicism is he loves it.
It's all self-inflicted.
Yeah, maybe my own self-inflicted cynicism against myself, right? Because I've been doing self-evaluation as we're doing this, right? I'm like, am I a person who's trying to am I getting my $30 a month on YouTube and I'm bad now? I'm like, I'm starting to think this, right?
Sell out.
Yeah,
You're a sell out, bro.
I made my $30. I think he wants to know, is doing that, and correct me right here, Mr. Plant, Mr. Eggplant, is that what you mean? Do you think that this altering of comic books, suppressing, cleaning, whitening, restoring, is feeding into that doing this for money thing and being artificial?
No, I don't think cleaning, pressing, whitening, I don't even consider that restoration. I know a lot of people consider just pressing restoration. Restoration to me is the leaf casting, the trimming, the color touch, all of that. And honestly, I have no interest in collecting that sort of stuff. I know there's a couple people, specifically Jerry the Jitterbug was in the chat, and he's like one of the best at that on YouTube, seems like.
Jerry, dude, I'm telling you, Jerry, it's like he's on here now, and Jerry, you're listening. He is the best.
Yeah.
People keep saying I'm the best, but only because they haven't seen Jerry's channel.
Right.
Jerry's not only the best at this, he doesn't take any shit off of anybody at all. And I take mountains of shit and just delete comments. Like, he's like, I bow to you, Jerry. Anyway, go ahead and continue. Sorry.
Oh no, I've come out against restored books. I don't personally, I would take an AF-15 that's a 1 over an AF-15 restored 5.0 or 6.0 or whatever. It doesn't, I want the original book. Now, making that book as pretty as it possibly can be without, color touch, leaf casting, trimming, stuff like that. I mean, anything's fair game. Putting it in your light box, that sounds cool. I would be down for that.
Yeah, watch some of my videos. You and I'll talk in the future, and I'll show you some videos. I think you'll be astounded at the stuff that can come. It's kind of jaw-dropping. And I want to ask you another question. So I don't know about your family and your extended friends, but one thing I want to know about you sort of personally is, I saw a video with your wife today, very lovely woman. She seemed to be very supportive and into the hobby. Is this a big slice of your life or a small slice of your life? Or like, how much of your everyday experience? Do you have another job that you do that's outside of this world? Like, how do we get to know Mr. Sticky Goose better about who you are, how this fits into your whole life?
Yeah, I mean, I read comic books every single day. Right now I'm reading a manga, which is called Berserk, but I mean, comic books are a part of every single day for me. Whether that's making a video, whether that's reading, whether that's watching somebody's comic book YouTube content, I'm in this, and I have been for years at this point. Some days it's all I think about, and other days, I turn it off, and it is what it is. But I love it. Yeah.
Do you have another day job that's not comic book stuff, or is this something that generates most of your income for you?
Oh no, I have another job, but I've never talked about it online, and
That's
people
fine.
people wouldn't believe me if I told them what I actually do.
That is great. I love it when you say that, because I'm going to tell you a quick, real short story. One time I went to Home Depot. I was actually working at Aerojet Ordnance and Tactical, and I was actually on loan to the space program, and I was making vernier thruster, etching vernier thrusters on the space shuttle so that they would, on the hot side where the sun would go the same speed as the other side, and you need the light to sort of scatter evenly to do it. So I was trying to build this hydrofluoric acid etching chamber for these thrusters for the Discovery. So I went to Home Depot and I said, hey, I'm looking for some, I need Teflon tubing, I need a pump, I need a weight, I need this, I need some valves, and they have to be stainless steel. And the guy goes, well, what kind of project are you doing at your house? I go, I cannot, you wouldn't believe me. I can't tell you what I'm doing, really, even technically. I'm not supposed to talk about it. And he goes, I've seen everything. You haven't seen that. I've been working here for 30 years. And I told him, and he goes, get the fuck out of here. I was like, and then lastly, would you want to share your real first name with everybody, or you want to keep that to yourself?
Oh, I'm Daniel. I've never said my last name, but yeah, I'm Daniel.
Got it. I'll just keep that here. And then I want to open up these last 10 minutes. Are you willing to answer questions from people, even if they're not the kindest? I
want to have the nastiest, awfulest questions they got.
Yeah. So, okay, anybody, let's have some questions for Professor Goose here and see what we have. Anybody got a question? He goes, why people don't like you, Sticky? Someone, we have this one. I think it's a question. I like you just fine, especially your haircut. I love it.
I don't think people like hearing things that don't make them necessarily always feel good. People want to hear what they want to hear. And sometimes the truth hurts, and it hurts feelings that are tied with nostalgia, tied with your bank account, tied with, whatever it is you're doing. And I'm very real. I'm a realist, and I'm not a liar. I've never been a liar. I'm brutally honest, and it doesn't always come off good. And I am cynical too. A lot of my videos are clickbaity in their title and in their thumbnail, but I don't. Whatever I say is on the title and on the thumbnail, it really is what the video is about. It's just some people don't like the drama. They don't like the drama part of the comic book community. The unfortunate part of that is the drama is, to me, the most interesting thing about this. Like,
yeah,
the most interesting thing about comics is reading the stories. But guess what? Nobody gives a shit about that.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you, like, think about the last 2 weeks with this CGC scandal. It's been like watching a damn soap opera the last 2 weeks in this industry. And right when we all have a lot of free time around Christmas too, it's been blowing up, right? We have someone who says to you, do you feel like a bit of a dodo for your initial take on the Reholder scam? What was your initial take on the Reholder scam? And do you feel like a dodo, I guess, is the question.
My initial take was I didn't know if it was real. So the information we were getting was from YouTubers and people on Instagram. And until CGC made a statement, I didn't think it was real, because one of the videos I watched was this guy, like he was like piecing it together he said he claimed he saw the smoking gun, and he was like looking at multiple books, a Hulk 181, the 8.5 green label, and then the blue label 9.0 or something. And he was like, this is the same book. And I was like, really? Like, because it seemed like he just did like a quick search, scrolled down and found one similar. And it felt like too easy, too lazy. And I made a video where I expressed some skepticism, basically saying it felt like it was a crucifixion of CGC without having real facts. And until CGC made a statement, it wasn't real to me.
Wow. Okay. And so, but then how did that change? What was it that made you change? And then I think the question is, do you have any chagrin over that now? But it sounds like you don't, because with the information at the time, it sounds like you're justified. And then, so how did you change your mind is the follow-up question.
I don't regret any of my videos, because they come from, when I make the video, it's coming from a pure standpoint. This is how I actually felt. And it was one of those situations where I didn't feel like the proof was not there. We had evidence, but we don't have proof. And it felt like it wasn't real. And after CGC made their statement, I was like, this is real. I've had multiple other situations on my channel where I've like talked about scams or like individuals that had been hurt, like people that had been scammed on like a live show, YouTube, a live sale, individuals that had been scammed by a grading company. And in those situations, I had both of the parties' information. Like I had the person that was getting ripped off and the person that was doing the ripping off. And in those situations, I knew all the moving parts. With this CGC thing, it was like, I'm only getting one side of the story, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense. Well, so people think I hate CGC and I don't. I think they hate me. I've had a number of comments on my channel that they've later been polled and they're saying they're watching me. And I think it's partially because of the cleaning and pressing part was part of it. And I probably didn't make a lot of friends. Like I did that, my one video the day before they released their statement, which was, I don't know if they're related or not, but I don't hate them. I'm not angry. I just want everybody to have the same information and there to be transparency.
Yes.
And that's what I want. And I've reached out to other comic book and CGC. And I've asked them, would you be willing to send me 3 empty slabs for testing on my channel? I'm going to do UV protection, scratch protection.
Oh, wow.
I'm going to open them, all this kind of stuff. And then I'll destroy them or I'll send them back to you. I don't want them. Just give them to me empty. So CGC was radio silence. CBCS also was radio silence. EGS, apparently, I asked through a third party, said, is that the guy who exposed CGC? Don't ever want to talk to him again. They hate me, essentially. But PGX said, yeah, I'll send you 3. I think that if there's a problem, we want to know about it. And I thought, that's the one out of the 4 was the one that is like got the worst name of anybody. They said, look, if we could improve, I want to know how, and like it beats us paying an R&D department to figure it out. We'll send you 3 next week. No instructions, just do whatever you want.
Right.
I said, well, that's freaking fantastic. Everybody else, and CGC does the gatekeeping and they're silent and they didn't give you your own side so that you could then determine what to think. Except for now you've got this mountain of Instagram posts that are maybe like swaying you another way. And then they finally release a statement. But now that they released a statement, there's so much trust is lost and there's so much damage. It's just awful, And then so we got someone else here. He says, C and peers hate you. Yeah, and CGC too. I don't know if that means me or someone else. Cleaners and pressers. Got it. Hate you and CGC too. I don't know if they hate me or you or who they hate here. But I want to ask you, we only have a few minutes left. Is there anything I can do? And the answer is going to be no, to patch things up between you and Pickle Puss or whatever his name was, the Eggplant Comics there. Because they sound like you guys got off on the wrong foot, but he may be trolling you from the safety of his keyboard. I don't know.
Exactly.
I don't know.
I don't.
How can we make this right? Like what? I know he's.
I don't care. The fact that he's still watching your stream, I appreciate it because that makes it up to me. There is no makeup. Like, dude, there are so many trolls, and I mean, I would consider myself even a troll, but it's like, it's all in good fun. I'm good.
Okay, that sounds good. I won't try to patch it up then. And then we're gonna have another 2 minutes. Is I want you to tell us a little bit about how do we find you? How do we like how do you make your video? You're on Instagram? You have a website? Like what do you do and how do you make your money? And how can we find you outside of my channel?
Yeah, I don't sell any comic books. I've done some live sales before. My channel is youtube.com/Sticky Goose. I'm on Instagram, Sticky Goose Comics. I post videos whenever there is some sort of buzz going on, or if I get something. But I'm not really. I'm not a seller. I don't sell to my viewers. I don't want there to be any hint that what I'm talking about is leading you to I'm swaying you to buy something from me. The fact that people watch my videos, they click through the ad, I'm happy. I don't do any of the membership tiers. I don't do any of the stuff. If the fact that anybody pays attention to me at all, I'm in amazement and I appreciate.
Well, that's good. I'm glad to hear that. Are you the person who, I may have seen a video recently where you said that like somebody had posted a video about right now is like the time to time to buy comics or something. Then like an hour later, he tried to like sell you comics or something like that.
Yeah, there's several channels that they show the hunts and the hauls, and then they tell about how cheap they got the books, and then they do live sales like literally the next week. I just always thought that was funny because it's like, dude, you just showed you got that for $1 and now you're selling it to me for $100.
Right. There's your natural cynicism creeping in, right? Exactly. It's okay. It's all right. We're all ourselves. Well, Daniel, it's been a genuine pleasure. I love your irreverent attitude. Don't ever change yourself at all. I absolutely love it. And I hope that we can have some talks again in the future.
This was the best live stream I've ever been on. Hands down.
Wow. I'm flattered. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Take care of yourself, my friend.
Take care.
All right. Bye, everybody. Take care.